Clint,
Colette.
it's been so long.
It's been way too long. I was getting anxious.
We we had a little summer holiday.
Yeah,
You had like a winter holiday
I had
in
a Christmas in July, actually, in
yeah.
Australia. Yeah.
How was that?
Oh, it was an amazing trip. Amazing. We went to Fiji, we went to Australia. We saw kangaroos. It was just what I needed.
You know, in all of my newly found spare time, I'm occasionally on Instagram. And I came across this reel of like a kangaroo in like uh like mid waist to neck deep in water.
Okay.
And apparently they like go out into water and like lure things into water because they are so powerful that they can like someone had like a video of like a kangaroo like trying to drown their dog. Anyways, whatever. I'm
Whoa.
just saying apparently kangaroos do not mess around. I don't know if
They
you
were like
also discovered that
vegetarians.
and
I
I
don't
don't know.
know. I did not pay attention at the zoo that we visited. The petting,
Oh,
the
it
like
was
we
in a
we
zoo.
pet we
Yeah.
pet kangaroos. It was amazing. They were very sweet and wallabies
Oh.
and my children had a wonderful time with that. But they probably told us what they eat, and I think I was too busy just watching the insanity of wildlife in Australia unfold in front of me. They showed us the snakes. We kept our distance. What I couldn't believe was all of the I didn't know this about Australia, all of the cockatoos just like flying around like crows fly around California.
Like they live there.
Like
Yeah.
like just and even lorikeets. Do you know what lorikeets are? They're these rainbow colored
So
birds. I just went outside into we were staying with family, went outside to the backyard, put my arm out, two lorikeets just land on my arm and just hang out and were like eating crackers out of my hand. It's like, where am I? This is strange. No spiders, by the way. I didn't have to deal with any spiders, but yeah,
they were there, you just didn't see them.
that's what I
To
was
be clear.
told. Yes, everybody was like, if you stay here long enough, you will see the spiders, and they already
You will
see
see a
you.
spider.
Yeah, but it was
Yeah.
wonderful to go visit family there, and to be there.
That's
It was very
great.
rainy, which is nice for us in California because we're dumb and we don't have weather. So I had a great
Yeah.
time. What have you been up to?
Well, the kids were out of school for part of August, and so we went up to the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, which is, I mean, Clint, we are currently in Michigan and we drove for 9 hours
What?
to get to this other part of Michigan.
Oh my
It's a
gosh!
big ass state. But we also went in the process of going there, you have to go over the Mackinac Bridge, which is like one of the biggest or the longest bridges in the world. And I love it. I love it in the UP. It's so cool. And my husband and my kids have never been there. And so I like made them go to like my favorite spot in the UP. It was really fun. And then we sold our house in Rhode Island. And so now we
You're
just own one
Michiganders.
house in Michigan that is currently not habitable. So we're getting there. We're
All
moving
right.
forward. Yeah, so I we had a good little vacation and I've been managing a lot of construction. You will appreciate this. So our builder is a good friend of ours. He did a lot of work in our house in Rhode Island. He came out to work on this house in Michigan, which we're really grateful for. And but the projects he's done for us in the past have been like pretty small. And this is like gutting and rehabbing a whole house. And there's a lot here. And like we're basically acting as GC, or I should say my husband is. And we're getting to a point where there's just too many balls in the air for us to be like winging it.
Yeah.
So my husband, who is also works in tech, he like brought a whiteboard to the house and
Of course he did.
post-its.
Yeah.
And we proceeded to do like our project planning for the remainder of the rehab. And our builder was just like standing back looking at us like we were absolutely insane. But
Like,
by the
who
end of
are
it,
these
he was
people?
like, I want to do this for everything I work on now. Like he was totally bought in. So I'm just saying, like, for people who work in tech who are, if you think we have some skills that are applicable in other areas of our
I I
Can't
have
tell.
Trello boards for my life. I think we've talked about this
Hmm.
before, and I have shown them to people, and they think I'm nuts too. And then they see how it burns down, and like
Hmm.
everybody, I think has had this experience. And I think maybe in a future episode we're going to jump into some agile stuff because
Ooh,
I think there's
yes.
like a resilience engineering, agile collaboration brewing to put upon communities that want to make in people stuff better in
Hmm.
companies. But definitely like that first time where you realize like my brain instantly is able to understand this in small enough chunks that I can do something about them.
Yeah.
That is a magical experience. So congratulations for introducing Kanban into your construction.
It wasn't like it was more just like the project layout, and then we'll Kanban it as we, you know.
Right. Well, that's
But
how Kanban
but it
works.
and also like understanding, the the big thing is understanding the dependencies because they're not always obvious in construction, much like software. Um, so yeah. Uh, so yeah, that was cool. What are we talking about today? We
Ooh,
are
wait. Before I have really briefly, I
okay.
have some retractions, some
Oh.
apologies to get to. They've been burning on my mind. The
Oh.
first one is a small one. I have to apologize to the makers of Tahine because I thought it was
Oh.
something else. It was some crazy industrial food thing. It is an absolutely authentic Mexican food that was invented in Mexico, is made in Mexico, and is what people in Mexico eat. So Tahine, amazing stuff. Put it on
It is
for
amazing. I
food.
love it. Thanks
Yes.
for letting us know.
Yeah. I was totally mistaken on that one. The other one's a little bigger, which is we talked about run books in the past, and I just have to say the run
Mhm.
book saved my life for the last 6 weeks, and so I may have been completely wrong on those. So
Maybe run books are great.
maybe they are.
Maybe
I
they're
was
great.
very dismissive of them and their value for someone so senior as me, and there was some very old esoteric stuff that fell apart and we just had to lean on the run books. And they were all wrong, by the way. They were still all wrong. But having them gave us insight into the mindset of the people who built the system.
Ooh.
And that allowed us to realize, oh, that is what has changed. Their assumptions are really bare. And so I
Yeah.
just, go back and listen to our run books episode with Andrew Hatch and just shake your fist at Clint. All wrong, all wrong, all wrong.
No, I mean, I think it's, but I also think the run book is cultural artifact, maybe underappreciated,
I think so.
right?
Yes. So
Okay.
maybe we can
All right.
revisit that in another future episode. But yeah, I had to get that out of my brain so we can proceed with our lovely guest today.
Yeah. And wow, I'm so excited for this guest. So, uh, we're going to talk about with Michelle Casey, who is awesome, and I will read her bio in a second. But we're going to talk about a blog post that Michelle did for the Resilience Software Foundation. It's called "Negotiating the Paradox We Face in Resilience Engineering: Lessons from an Engineering Leader."
A most
And
intriguing paradox.
yeah, and this is like many of the guest shows that we're doing for This Is Fine, we will be having a live event related to it for the Resilience and Software Foundation. This live event with Michelle will be on September 29th. It's a Monday at 3 p.m. Eastern. I'm going to have the event link for tickets in our show notes, so you should be able to read it there. So, without further ado, today's guest is Michelle Casey, an engineering leader with experience leading site reliability, platform, and product engineering teams. She's currently a lead consultant at Wires Uncrossed, working with New Zealand product and tech companies to untangle the wires of software delivery and improve developer productivity and reliability. Previously head of engineering for SRE at Xero, and she's also worked at IAG, Westpac, and a few other places across New Zealand and the UK. Please join us in welcoming Michelle. Hello. Welcome, Michelle.
Hi.
It's great
How
to
are
have you,
you?
Michelle. We're excited for
Good
today.
good morning. It's afternoon where we're at. Well, how is the future? How are you doing?
How's the future? It's Bleak and gray.
Oh, bummer. Even in New Zealand, I guess it's you're entering your spring. So yeah, you're exiting winter, right? In theory.
Yeah. Yeah. In
Yeah,
theory.
but it's a
Um,
bleak exit.
so far, yeah. It's been quite a cold, kind of wet September.
Oh, that must be so annoying having a dog too, like in that. Do you
Eh, I am used to it, I suppose.
okay. You
Yeah.
you
Do you,
you have a wonderful dog that I love seeing pictures of all the time. Remind me of we'll tell everybody who your
Stevie
dog
Licks.
is. Stevie Licks,
Stevie
one of
Licks.
the greatest dog
that is
names
epic.
of all time.
Amazing.
Uh yeah, I what like thank you so much for joining us. This I feel like so you it was interesting because you wrote a blog post. So we're going to talk about this blog post. You wrote a blog post that we posted on the Resilience to Software Foundation blog. Thank you for writing it and letting us publish it. But also you I reached out and I was like I want to talk to Michelle for the podcast. And you were like, "But is there like a question that someone has asked?" Because you know that we like to get questions. And I wanted to be like, some or all of our questions are directly related to this blog post, this kind of the paradox that you call out in the blog post. And I did a little digging and I found a question that we had not answered yet. Um, can I read it? Okay.
Yeah.
I think it's related. I think it's related. You guys, you can tell me and then we'll figure it out. Okay. So, it says, "Help. My organization thinks incidents are only technical. And whenever I ask questions about the human context, it's presented back to me as a performance issue because I, quote, don't understand the technical reason it broke. I've given examples from your podcast and some of the intro links you and Clint recently posted, I think, about getting into human factors. Should I just quit and go somewhere more progressive? How do you get folks on board when you're junior and new?" And what's interesting to me is that this person is writing from a perspective of being junior and new. You wrote this blog post, The Paradox of Leadership in from the perspective of, I think, a manager or somebody in a position of some power, right, in an organization who is trying to bring ideas of resilience engineering to the fore. And to TLDR it a little, what you say is slow your roll, hold your horses, stop, uh, and consider that these things that you're trying to change or upend, they're there for a reason. And we need to understand those reasons before we move forward and try to change anything. Is that a somewhat decent summary of of
Yeah. I think so, yeah. And it's just it is a paradox, right? The two opposing perspectives will always exist side by side. One might kind of be a bit more dominant than the other depending on what's going on, but I think that both perspectives will always be there.
And by both perspectives, do you mean a resilience engineering perspective and like basically a like
Yeah.
MTTR is dumb and doesn't mean anything versus, but we post MTTR and that's how we understand whether we're successful or not?
Yeah.
Is that the opposing?
It was a long time ago that I wrote this.
Yeah.
I think of the perspectives as like one is like you need to have credibility and trust, and to build that you have to do things that maybe we know are not necessarily the best things to be doing, but you have to do that in order to then get that credibility, the buy-in, to then start doing some of the resilience things and start sliding that in alongside things like TTR and incident counts. And so it's that paradox is like it's like perceived confidence versus actual improvement of safety. Perceived confidence and control, maybe.
Yeah, because yeah. So this person we should get back to this person was like, every time I talk about human factors, people yell at me and say I'm not technical enough. And I think, it's interesting thinking about this from a junior engineer's perspective, right?
Did they say you're an engineer?
Well, they
I didn't
said,
get that for sure from it. Say,
when you're junior and new. So I assumed, and they said, my organization thinks incidents are only technical, and whenever I ask questions about the human context is presented back to me as a performance issue.
Right, they're implying.
Because I, quote, don't understand the technical reason it broke.
Yeah. So even if they're not in an engineering role, they're in an engineering organization.
Yeah.
And they need to be somewhat technical. So it kind of more broadly, I think, applies, right? That there's some expectation of that. That's credibility. I think that's exactly what you're talking about, Michelle. Is like, they're saying you are not building credibility here.
Right.
To build it with us, you need to explain databases and computers to us, not people. That's what I think I hear those leaders saying to them. There's pondering for those not watching on the video. There are pondering eyes looking back at me.
There's so much. I mean, the comment at the end is like, should I just go somewhere else more progressive and quit? And like, sometimes, yes, that's the right answer for you.
I would say it's hard to know with 2 sentences written in whether, dear listener, whether you should quit your job, because we don't know what's really going on at your job. But my inclination is like, don't quit your job. And I say this as somebody who has recently quit my job. So I have a lot of credibility here. I think here's the thing, and I think that this is at the heart of what Michelle's awesome blog post was sort of getting at, is the way that we're going to change. There's a moment where you come to understand, when you start to get into resilience engineering and you come to understand some of this stuff, even just the tippity top of the iceberg of the stuff, there's a moment where you realize that a lot of these concepts are revolutionary in the sense that they shift your fundamental understanding of the world that you operate in and exist in. And it's very hard to talk to people who have not had that revolutionary moment with the same material and speak to them in a way that they will understand you. And in order for us, when you understand the world differently than somebody else does, you can't just like talk at them about like human factors and graceful extensibility and those 3 papers that you read or whatever. Even the links that Clint and I try to throw out there in show notes, like some of them are a little out there. Even Lauren's blog. Lauren, I love you. It's the simplest it could possibly be. Sometimes it's still not for somebody who's totally not ready, right? Like if somebody's not ready to hear this stuff, it's probably not going to get to them. And so I don't think that the answer is like sending them another talk or giving them some kind of proof. I think the answer is building credibility with them and playing the game that they need you to play in order to build that trust and that respect, right? And the way that the revolution happens is by like sliding a couple things in there. I really like Vanessa Huerta Grande here in terms of like, I give people their MTTR. I give them these things that they think that they need, and I add a little bit of information on the side that helps color the things. All right, tell me I'm wrong, both of you. Is that wrong?
We talked about this, I think, last time too. I've been on board with that approach. And I've been this person in this org who's like, why won't people listen to me? There's more here. Uh, and I've kind of been feeling the opposite, like, um, you don't want to make people wrong. That's just a way into people's danger bin. Like, now this person's dangerous. They're gonna challenge me. They're gonna make it hard to work with. I'm gonna avoid them, even if they don't consciously know that. So making people like outright wrong, I'm on board with that. But also like leaning out a little and trying to do both things at once hasn't produced great results for me yet. I haven't gotten the change. So this is just anecdotal data that I'm feeling more like I'm actually just not going to contribute to the thing that you think is important. You're busy and you probably won't even notice that it's not there. I'm going to give you the thing that I really feel strongly I want to talk to you about as a leader. Like I'm the thing that when you're like, what's going on over there? I'm going to be like, well, I sent you that thing. And it's not going to have what you asked for all the time. But I think that comes from a place of I've already built the credibility with you. If we're in that boat as an engineer, as a staff engineer, leader in that engineering organization, I think I get a little bit of an extra bump in credibility there because I'm often spending time making technical explanations to you. So even if you didn't ask for it in a resilience context, like I have credibility from you because I explained the database failure to you. So when I'm also like, there's more here, and here's the thing, here's this incident report, and they're like, where's all the database stuff in here? I'm like, great, now we can talk. So I'm kind of out of the like playing both sides of it game these days. But I do understand, like, the first thing, the most important thing, I think it really resonated with me the way you said that, Michelle, is you've got to come from a credible place from whoever you're trying to have a conversation with, where your ideas are different from theirs. They've got to have that lean back moment and go like, well, what are you on about here?
Yeah. You've also got to talk to the topic. You've got to talk to it in their like terms and in their words. I think you can't. I don't know. I've definitely tried to have conversations with people around the topic of resilience in engineering, and then just received this look like, oh, here we go down this weird rabbit hole again. I don't, and you've lost them at that point, right? And that's kind of not it. It's like, if you're talking to a leader, you've got a limited amount of time. They're busy. They've got a lot of other things on their plate. You've kind of got to cut through and make your point quite effectively. And yeah, the credibility is important, but like speaking to them in language that they're gonna. This is not very eloquent, but like in language that they're gonna get, like it's gonna trigger something in their brain that goes, oh yeah, okay, hold on, maybe that is something I need to think about, and kind of throwing out a lot of the way that we do things today in our industry isn't gonna help with that. That illusion of control that comes with a lot of those approaches it's held so tightly because it's so kind of comforting that you kind of have to work around it.
Yeah, control really comes into my mind too. Like when you're trying to convince somebody that they're not in control, like it's going to take a while for them to let go of the thing that they've been told is the control. Right? Like they're like, you can be like, you can just let go of that. It's actually not doing anything. You have to show them that it's not hooked up to anything, right? And they have to feel safe enough to go, oh, okay, right? And so that's the revolution that you're talking about, Colette. That we still haven't found that transitional model that pays lip service to the control, but also allows them to let go of it and go, oh yeah, this isn't hooked up to anything. We're just going like, no, it's really not hooked up to anything. Like,
yeah, I mean,
good luck.
There is something though to telling the man behind the curtain. Like for me, the Wizard of Oz problem is that it's not just that many leaders who are trying their best every day and doing what they can to like survive the situations and what's expected of them, right? They don't view themselves as the man behind the curtain in the Wizard of Oz, right? They don't identify in that way. And so I think, and I also want to point out that resilience engineering Like viewing something through the lens of resilience engineering doesn't require leadership buy-in. Like looking at like resilience exists all around you in your organization now. Even in the most top-down heavy, probably even more importantly in the top-down heavy, like command and control style organizations, resilience exists everywhere. And to engineer resilience, you certainly don't need to frame anything in the concept of resilience engineering to get buy-in, right? And you can find it and talk about it with other people without leadership buying in. So there's also this part of me that's like, I don't know, what is this Eden that everybody wants? Like, that's not the point. Like, resilience engineering isn't asking for perfect leadership, you know?
Being left waiting a long time if it was. And that's not a knock on leaders in general, but right, like perfection is always the enemy of good. And I think a lot of us do even get hung up on needing good. And I think it's important, like that what we mostly need is space to work, right? And enough sponsorship, enough awareness, and enough credibility with that sponsorship that when we do need a little cover, maybe it comes without understanding. I think I've had good leaders who've come to me and been like, "What are you trying to do here?" I can't you want me to explain it? Like, okay, so here's the deal. There's a human socio-technical system, and most of the failings are in the connections between the people. And they'll be like, never mind. Okay, that's fine. What do you need? Okay, you just need people to join this group. I'll make a space for that group. This incident commander group or whatever it is you're asking for. It's got to be small enough that they're willing to do it. So we need.
Right.
But I don't think it ever works without some of that. That's one thing. Is I every time when we've gotten farther than the first few steps without that, there's just this freight train that comes through and blows it all up again, and we go back to the step zero. And maybe that's still resilience engineering, I know, but it doesn't feel great. And it does, I think, you can say more to this than I can, Colette, but it does kind of contribute to the burnout factor that we all experience.
Michelle, I'm curious, like what, and you can decline to answer this if you need to, but like for you in an organization, what would, like, in a scale of 0 to 10, where 10 is the most perfect resilience engineering wonderful place you can imagine, and 0 is like before anybody ever even knows about it or thinks about it, what is like 0 to 2 look like? What for you does that look like?
Oh, wow. This is funny because I feel like I asked you a similar question
like 2 years ago.
Back.
And I probably totally avoided the answer.
A few months ago, it was like, if you went somewhere and resilience engineering was not a thing, how would you go about introducing it? I think was the question. So from like a 0, don't know anything, to a 2. I don't think it wouldn't be things like knowing that there's the difference between robustness and resilience, and that mostly when we use the word resilience in our industry, we're using it incorrectly. As like, for example, it wouldn't be that kind of thing. I think it would just be people understanding that, like the role of, maybe that's going for 2, maybe that's a bit far, but people understanding the role of expertise and just understanding that, spending a bit more time understanding their systems and understanding them in the context of an incident and what's happened, and thinking about incidents just a bit more broadly. I think it would just be that. And it probably doesn't even involve leadership, because you could do that at a team level or a department level, but just that little thinking a bit more broadly about incidents, understanding that actually expertise is important here, and that's what we're trying to build on, even if it's not in those terms. Like we don't use those terms. It would be just that little kind of piece, I think.
How does that play out in terms of, are you talking like maybe a couple hours extra spent and like the learning cycles at the end, or
I mean, yeah, potentially. Also, just asking a different set of questions in like
hmm.
your existing kind of post-incident review. What surprised you about this incident? What did you learn about the system? What did the system not do that you thought it would? Like, just were there any other factors outside of what we've talked about that could have influenced this?
Hmm.
Like, oh, this past prioritization decision, or we recently right-sized our auto scaling policies, and like just what bigger picture things, what things immediate that aren't so immediate that were just a bit broader, just little things like that even.
Yeah, I mean it's interesting, right? I remember I really liked to do this thing in my org in my last gig. That I found like a really fun exercise, which is like once a month, new people would come and some people would join if they felt like it, who were kind of from the old like standing team. And we would just we called it whiteboard the org. And we would just like draw a portion of the organization, like the org chart. And then we would talk about like what the different teams owned and or what they did and or like the history behind them. And so we did this for like other teams that we like were very close with, and then like somebody who was new could like ask, like one day somebody who was new asked about like the sales team, and I was like, I don't know shit about the sales team, like let's talk about it, right? Like what does anybody here know about the sales team? Like how are they organized, how do they work, how is their and i I've always thought about things like that. Like it can sound like it's like a really fun thing or like a really like maybe superfluous thing. But I had multiple people come back to me that had been onboarded and had experienced that. And also multiple people come back to that like month after month. They would just come, even though they were like, or had already been onboarded or whatever. And they were like, this is one of the most valuable things that I've done, just in terms of learning how to navigate my job.
So did you specifically do that as a part of onboarding or in general?
It was
Just because
initially as part of onboarding for somebody, and then it just kind of became a tradition that like kind of grew beyond onboarding because other people wanted to come and talk about it or like learn. But it occurred, of course, after the fact occurred to me that I was kind of doing some resilience engineering, like that alone is
yeah.
a kind of resilience engineering where I'm helping people in my organization learn about the organization around them and the systems they own and how we operate together. And it, I think, helped a lot of people in terms of like certainly navigating incidents or things like that. So
Yeah. That's super interesting. I've definitely, I think we probably all heard of people doing that for systems and giving it a name like this is my picture or something. But yeah, I've never heard of people doing it for like an org chart, which is really cool actually.
yeah, and we had like a big like Figma FigJam board that like was just wrong. Cause that's the thing, right? It's like a lot
Yeah.
of I remember like at Spotify, they never would draw org charts for like anything. You could never find an org chart in like a PowerPoint slide anywhere at Spotify. And it was because people were like allergic to it because and you figured out why pretty quickly when you joined, because you were like, oh yeah, 6 months in, there's been like 8 reorgs. There's absolutely no point in drawing an org chart. But it was super frustrating for people. And a lot of people ended up relying on Backstage as their org chart. And that actually ended up being a really interesting like flip of the like technical and social. But yeah, so we would whiteboard the org at prior gig came out of that. Like I had a lot of people who we would just go into a room and like when they started and like whiteboard the current situation organizationally so that they understood and like talked about the history and stuff. It was very like, or it was like very like the oral history of, you got to like put the hot gossip in there. Otherwise people won't pay attention.
Yeah. This is why this weird team exists and why they're over there and not over here. And yeah.
And that stuff, a lot of that stuff comes out in like pre-mortem exercises too. I've seen whatever you're doing to expose it, right? There's just like these piles of assumptions that are in people's head, and their expertise comes from letting go of stuff. I think this is a thing. I forget the paper I read about this, but like can't really focus on your thing if you feel like you're responsible for other things. So we're just like, let go and say that those people got that. And that's your version of the org chart in your head. And having people draw that is such an enlightening exercise, because you will see generational shifts. Like people who have been here for 5 years think these people do that, but actually people who got here a year ago figured out that those people do that because we decided to tell them that. And then you find out there's actually a third group when you actually go look. And then you go into an incident report and you invite them and they're like, we don't do that anymore. that little thing of who's holding which balls. Like I have a situation in mind where there's a, we have like this big giant monolith, and there's this one Confluence page that says team X does Y and team Z does B. And then there's this giant ever growing list at the bottom of like, who does, and like, we have a task to like, go ask, do you do this? Who does? And you find that the leaders like showing to me, like, look how many things are unowned. Look how many things have actually fallen apart due to reorgs or due to product launches that didn't go well, and we don't want to talk about them. It's really, really useful, and it's really helpful for the resilience of the people to know what isn't handled. And so I feel like these kinds of things, bringing leaders in, this is where we don't expect good, perfect leaders, right? But if we can inform them and not tell them this is resilience engineering, but just let them know, hey, the people under you have these questions. Right? They're dealing with these burdens. They don't have anyone to help them with this. I like to think that would change the leader's posture on things. I wouldn't, as a lead, if I put myself in their shoes, I would be like, wow, that's really important. Like the core of our product doesn't have an owner. Like maybe we should do that.
I'm curious, Michelle, if you've had any, oh shit, that didn't work moments with bringing resilience engineering to work.
Do you say ownership? Sorry, just kind of.
No, oh shit, that didn't work. Like I'm thinking of one that I have in particular where I'm like, oh, I just fucked that up real bad. Like so we talked about things that we do that might work depending on what level of ownership you have, but I'm thinking of like things that definitely did not work where you were like, oh, that didn't do anything.
I mean, the blog is like kind of a summation of there's a lot of hindsight bias in there, but those are all my oh shits. I think one of the biggest ones for me was like organizations and their leadership are constantly changing, and so is the culture in line with that. And you can win and be successful with one set of engineering leaders, and then there can be a big change out, and then you're starting from the beginning again, and you've got to kind of know that you're starting from the beginning again. It doesn't matter what you've established and what you've been able to create and what credibility you've had with prior leaders. If you're not doing some of those things that are like kind of standard expectations, you don't have that credibility, that's going to immediately cause a problem for you trying to get buy-in for this stuff. But you've got to start again from the beginning and building the trust, the credibility, the understanding that how do you riding the wave of industry cycles and change. It's also really hard because you've made all this progress. You don't want to just start from the beginning again because someone decided to leave. That's kind of crap. Like, really? I think that would definitely be one of the big ones. Like, knowing you've got to meet different stakeholders where they're at, especially if there's that that normal organizational change cycle.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if
Is
you
there
like,
such thing as a durable culture change? I don't know.
you got to have that MTTR dashboard backed up somewhere. It's got to be.
We'll just
You
pull,
might
we'll
not
have to
pull it
get,
out.
yeah.
Yeah.
Just the
You got to have it in your back
Go
pocket
back to level
just
2.
in case.
Like,
Literally, yes.
You do. Yeah.
that's a great reminder, by the way, and it's happened to anybody who has sustaining focus on resilience engineering in their career has probably felt this in some way, and that we have to kind of go inward here and say, like, so, like, expecting that is a form of resilience, right? Like, we as practitioners should not be surprised. I mean, we will be surprised, but we might prepare ourselves, right? What can we do to prepare for that shift? Even just talking about it here is good. What did you say? Back up the MTTR dashboard just in case before you delete it. Like, there are also, like, just sort of posturing things we can do to be ready and know and look for those, as we build our expertise in resilience engineering. We should see, like, oh, new leaders, like, let's not assume that they're going to jump right on board with everything we're doing, right? Let's greet them with, hey, let's whiteboard the org. New leader, right? Like, I don't know what we would do as an example, but we can engineer that part of our experience as well, or can we?
Yeah. I also think, like, I don't view resilience engineering as antithetical necessarily to anything. I view it as additive. And I think it's helpful if that is how. It's hard because you can see a better world where there is none yet. And so it's easy to position it as a fight. But I view it more as, here are some things you can try and some things you can do and some perspectives you can see things through the lens of, but you don't have to throw out all of this other stuff to be true resilience engineering. That's not a thing. So I would hope that, like, the listener, yes, you have to learn the technical factors involved. Like, you have to learn those technical factors. They're not antithetical. Understanding the technical stuff isn't antithetical to resilience engineering. Resilience engineering is an additive lens to those technical factors. So I think, like, starting to see things like that is really important. And if somebody doesn't buy into that where you're at, then maybe slow your roll a little bit. Show them that you too are interested in technical factors and learn some things about them. And then sprinkle just a little bit.
Yeah, I like your usage of the concept of lensing here. Like, that is a strategic approach to any change, is to not treat it as a replacement, but rather, like, you've been looking at it through this way and you have doubts about what you're seeing through that lens. I have another lens, right? A different lens. It's going to be weird, right? But it's going to look different. It's going to bend things in different ways than you're used to. That is such a better way to change people, but it's so slow. I think that's what gets it. And that's where we want to fight and just, I just want to burn all those bad lenses down. But I do like the idea that we can be additive and sort of let people look through both for a while. That's sort of what you're referring to with the Vanessa approach. It's just, you get somebody to start using your lens, and then, as you say, Michelle, then the new people are like, don't show me that lens. Like, where's the ITIL lens? I need that one. That's the one I know how to work with. And we have to respect that about them. That's their expertise. They know how to work with the ITIL lens.
Yeah, getting people to understand that they need to progress beyond the, like, false confidence and kind of illusion of control that comes with the more, like, shallow and narrow approaches is definitely not. It's not something I think I figured out yet. Like to say I had, but
Yeah, I mean, I think it's very hard to justify one's leadership and tech salary if one doesn't think one has some level of control over the outcome, right? That's make it about money. But
It has to be though, right? Like I think it's a great reminder. Like ultimately, we're always talking about a business. Really, we're not talking about building civil computer cloud systems, right?
well,
Much.
and I always tell people tend to behave in ways that they are rewarded for behaving. And so if somebody's been behaving their whole career like they are in control and they have the charts to prove to you that they are in control, it's going to be very hard for you as a person who is not their boss to convince them that that is not the way to go because they've been rewarded for behaving that way. So, I think that in those cases, it's worth adjusting what your expectations are of success or what success looks like in those kinds of organizations, or quitting. Then you can quit.
You can quit, like right? Like we don't. There are no compulsory tech jobs that I'm aware of in the world.
Yeah.
Not outside maybe North Korea or something. But like
Yeah,
there
sorry
probably are some
for our
people who can't
listeners in
quit.
North Korea.
Yeah,
I'm
apologies for
sorry.
that. Yeah, that one
Yeah.
listener.
Uh,
Building of an audience there, but no, like I think it is freeing to know like there are things you can try, things you can do to manage your own expectations of what resilience engineering is going to do in your immediate space of influence. And if that's too much, if you're putting too much in and you're not getting enough out, like that's the time to consider moving on or asking for help too. That's another thing that I think we forget to do sometimes is you may ask not necessarily the leader who's not interested, but somebody whose job is to help you, like your manager. Like, hey, I really need help with this. That's been useful for me to you, Colette, right? Where I'm like, hey, help me. Like I'm good at databases. I'm bad at convincing leaders. There may be people who can help you with that.
yeah. So I think say you could just quit. It's quite a privileged thing to be able to do. Sometimes it's
Yes.
about hanging on until you can find the next gig. I feel like that's
Mm-hmm.
important just to call out. But I do think when it comes to resilience engineering, you need to take a step back and think about if the culture of the organization is right for it, if it's going to be receptive. I quite like a model to help explain things. So if you think of like Westrom's organizational the top cultural topologies of organizations, and there's pathological, bureaucratic, and generative. And like if I it's just a model, we think about like that. If an organization or a team is really generative, you're probably going to be able to have a bit of success with resilience engineering. People are going to be open to things that are more novel and different and kind of going with them. But if you're in an environment that's really pathological or really bureaucratic, you're really, especially pathological, but also bureaucratic, you're really going to struggle to make progress in that environment. And so, I don't know, thinking about things like that sometimes could be helpful. Just do you meaningfully think? Do you think you can make meaningful progress, or are you just going to be running into a brick wall over and over again because that's how the organization is doing things, and there's no interest in changing?
Yeah, and to be clear, that doesn't mean that there isn't resilience in that organization. Again, like we said, there is
Yeah, whether we
resilience
want it to be or not.
everywhere. Yeah. And I think what would be a really interesting study for the academic community is to look at what resilience looks like in those different like cultural models. I suspect that what would come back is that those cultural models are more complex than they are presented. Like that there are multiple models within an actual organization.
You know what they say about models.
Yes. But that's like it's there, and finding the people who are resilient in the face of the need for hierarchical control, or the appearance, sorry, of hierarchical control. Like finding those people who are exhibiting resilience, or who are encouraging it, or who are, doing some kind of thing could be really interesting. If you can pull yourself out of the need to like boil the ocean, and just focus on the interesting stuff happening around you that happens despite all of the other stuff, that could be a good thing to do as well. Any other parting advice for our listener?
Hang in there.
Join the Resilience in Software Foundation. Come talk to
Yeah.
us. Ooh, I'm going to plug it. I'm going to plug the event again. We are going to be Michelle has graciously said that she will participate in a live event for the Resilience in Software Foundation. So we're going to co-host that. It will be on September 29th at 3 p.m. Eastern. So if you're interested in joining us, go to the resilienceandsoftware.org and click on events, and it'll be there. You can buy a ticket. I'll also add a link to that.
Thank you.
Come talk to us about your problems. Yeah. Thanks for
very excited to have a two-way conversation with some folks there.
Yeah, subjecting yourself to our live process too.
It'll be fun.
Absolutely. And thanks again to Michelle for joining us. Now, thanks for writing this blog post. I think it provided a lot of really wonderful discussion for the community. So thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for everything you do, Michelle. Really appreciate you coming on.
Thanks for having me. Thanks for being one of my early reviewers, Colette.
Of course. And please like and subscribe to our podcast. And please write into us, because we need more questions. I only got one question in like the last month, y'all. And it wasn't even a real question. It was, please put yourself on Apple Podcasts. And now I have to go see why our feed isn't going to Apple Podcasts.
Yeah.
We should be on it. So if we're not, thanks for writing in, person, but also come on, write to us about something burning question you have about resilience engineering, because we don't really have many questions to go. You can find us at thisisfinepodcast.com, right? Is that our web address?
Thisisfinepod.com, I think.
Thisisfinepod.com. Okay.
We know our website.
That's where you should go. Yes. I haven't been there in like 6 weeks because I've been taking a break. All right. Yeah. Go to thisisfinepod.com and click on the Ask Us a Question button, and you can fill out a form and it will ask us a question. All right.
No question is too small. No question is too complex.
It's true.
Yeah. The spicier, the better, but we take bland questions and make them spicy. So bring them to us.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, Clint. Thanks, Michelle.